I thank God that I know Him as my deliverer from sin and Satan. And we have a deliverer we can go to and say, Lord, save me and save my household. We've got a mighty deliverer whose arm is not short and his ear is not heavy, he cannot hear. And he says, call upon me in the day of trouble. And I thank God He's a deliverer. I thank God He knows what I need before I ask Him. Yes, He's my king. He's my priest. He's my deliverer. He's all of that. But He's more. He's my fragrance. And I'm afraid I've not known Him that way. I have not seen Him as my fragrance. And yet I'm discovering now that almost every man of God who's gone before me, who walks so close to the Lord, always mention the fragrance, the Puritans and all this. You'll hear them talk about the sweetness and the fragrance of Jesus before they died. They always spoke of it. Now keep in mind, please, that Jesus was a fragrance to His Father. He was a sweet smelling savor, the Scripture says. You know the Old Testament tabernacle, don't you? It was a type of Christ. And in that tabernacle, in the holy place, was an altar of incense. And there was perpetual incense that was burned. When Aaron lighted the lamps at even, he said, burn incense upon a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generation. Folks, look at me please. It was impossible to walk in to a holy place without being absolutely overwhelmed with fragrance. I mean, it just covered it. You could walk in and walk out without being covered with fragrance. You had to inhale it everywhere, the aroma of fragrance, because that perpetual incense was being burned on that incense altar. Not only that, everything that was holy in that place, everything was sprinkled with a holy, sweet oil, a fragrant oil. Most theologians have different ideas of what each piece of furniture represented, but one thing I do know and one thing I do understand. You couldn't go near that tabernacle without being impressed with the fragrance. I mean, the very walls emitted fragrance. You walk to the altar, and that bloody sacrifice, it was sprayed. It was anointed with oil. There was a fragrance that came out of that. The very sacrifice was sprinkled with the oil. There was an odor coming out when the fire came out. The fire emitted a fragrance. You would go then to the laver, and it had been sprayed with a fragrance, anointed with a fragrance. The priest, everywhere he went, everything on him fragrant. You go in the holy place, even the bread had that anointing oil spread over it. The candlestick had this anointing oil. And the incense was burning constantly, perpetually, with this fragrance going up. Fragrance everywhere. You know what the Lord is saying? He was making a wonderful statement. All service, all sacrifice, all communion with me ought to be sweet and delightful and restful. It should not be boring. It should not be odorous. It should not be burdensome. It should not be wearisome. It should be like an apple tree with a fragrance. Prayer should not be boring. Prayer should not be burdensome. It should be sitting down with delight under the apple tree and the fragrance of it blessing your soul. You know, God looked down at His Son, and He was a sweet-smelling fragrance that crossed the sacrifice. There was not a moment Jesus hung on that cross that He wasn't a sweet odor to His Father. He was fragrance. He rested in what His Son did. I ask you, Holy Spirit, to fill me with the sweetness of Jesus. Help me to take more time to sit at His shadow and to be delightful. That You be my joy, Jesus. That I can serve You with joy and gladness. Lord Jesus, I want You to come now and baptize those that stand here at the front with the joy of Jesus. Oh, Lord, in the sweetness of Christ. Lord, You've been so good to us. You've been so sweet. You've been so gentle to us. Help us to show forth that gentleness. Lord, not looking out for self, but looking out for others. To be to others what Jesus would be if He were walking this earth. Come, Lord Jesus, and forgive us for the flesh. Forgive us, Lord, for reacting in the flesh. And make us more like You, Jesus. We want to be like Jesus. To be like Jesus. Lord, we want to be like You. We want the world to see You in us. We don't want them to see flesh. We don't want them to see us. We want them to see Jesus.